Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the council meeting of Monday, October 7th, 2019. Call this meeting to order. First off, are there any disclosures of interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the adoption of the previous council minutes. Moved by Councillor Ritchie, second by Councillor Bain. Resolved that the following council meeting minutes be approved. Council of September 16th, 2019 and Special Council of September 30th, 2019. All in favor? That's carried. First report is PA 19-38, Grimsby Economic Development Advisory Committee. And Walter Basic is going to present that. Good evening, Walter.
Good evening, Mayor Jordan and members of council. Just to give you some background, at the council meeting of October 7th, 2019, Councillor Ritchie put forth a notice of motion with regard to the Grimsby Economic Development Advisory Committee, or GDAC as we call it. This report is intended to just address some of the issues that are brought up by the notice of motion. Now, the GDAC has, the Grimsby GDAC has an existing terms of reference that was last updated in 2012. And the terms of reference primarily state that the GDAC is an advisory committee to council through the Planning and Development Committee. Its primary function is to endeavor to bring to fruition the recommendations, suggestions, and activities found in the Town of Grimsby Economic Development Strategic Plan that was dated to January 2012, which are to primarily develop an effective marketing plan, support the retention and expansion of local businesses, engage in business attraction programs, and to support entrepreneurial development within the town. Now, what are other municipalities in Niagara doing? Municipalities with economic development staff include Niagara Falls, Welland, Fort Erie, Port Colborne, Town of Lincoln, City of St. Catharines. This is without economic development staff, municipalities including Grimsby, Waynfleet, Pelham, Niagara-on-the-Lake, West Lincoln, and Thorold fall under that category. Out of the communities that are actively engaged in economic development, economic development is primarily done, with the exception of Grimsby and West Lincoln, economic development is primarily done through the CAO's office and reporting directly to council. Now, the region has a role to play. The region's mandate is to support those municipalities without economic development staff by assigning a professional economic development officer to the municipality. The Town of Grimsby is currently supported by the excellent Kelly Provost. She does wonderful work for the town. Now, historically, as I mentioned previously, GDAC has been assigned as an advisory committee to council through the Planning and Development Committee. However, this arrangement has its drawbacks, as I note in the report. This arrangement creates potential conflicts of interest with planning staff, such as in situations where we're tasked with promoting or advocating for a development or for a site for a potential business, which potentially conflicts with our primary responsibility, which is to provide professional independent planning advice to council through the Planning and Development Committee. GDAC must be aligned with staff, in our opinion, that has a more autonomous role within the municipal structure. Although it is everyone's role within the organization to contribute to economic development as part of their other responsibilities within the municipality, the CAO, who is the town manager, has the unique role of directing and implementing and the implementation of council policy directives throughout the organization. This arrangement would permit a more agile, responsive, implementation of council's direction in the field of economic development. To this end, the GDAC committee is more suitably reporting through directly to council through the office of the town manager. Town manager provided some additional notes. Mr. Schlang, if you would like to add to our recommendation.
Through you, Mayor, to
Or
the rest
discussion.
of council. I had the privilege of attending the meeting last couple weeks ago, and I was really impressed with the council's choice of the lay members. And I really feel the makeup of the current committee is very suitable in moving forward. And, once council sets its priorities, perhaps we might adjust some of the priorities of GDAC, but at this time, I feel the makeup is very suitable to advance the business of council in ECDEV.
So in summary, again, it's our recommendation that the Grimsby Economic Development Advisory Committee terms of reference be revised to align the committee to report to council through the office of the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Basic. Councillor Bain?
Quick question, Walter, and maybe some of my members, peers up here on council could answer it. Is GDAC responsible for things like tourism, the movie shoot we had recently, that type of thing? Or is that something that's arranged through the region?
GDAC could, in its advisory capacity, could involve itself in endeavors like that. It's my understanding that that particular movie shoot that we just witnessed recently in the downtown, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with who was directly involved with the promotion of the town of Grimsby in order to use it as a location for that particular movie. So GDAC could be involved. I'm sure the region of Niagara, through its economic development office, can also play that role.
Councillor Sharp? No?
Okay.
All right. Councillor Bain has another question?
No, it's more of a comment. Trevor from Parks and Rec was the contact for it, but I wasn't sure how we got it. I actually did make contact with the gentleman who picked the location. The gentleman in question, he lives in Niagara on the Lake, and he said he drives through Grimsby all the time, and he said that when he found out about this particular movie, it was his idea. So I have his direct contact, so I want to make sure that somebody gets that to keep it in mind, because he was very impressed with Grimsby. He thought we were fantastic because of our heritage. Not only did they use Teddy's, they also used a house up on Main Street, and they used the market up on Main Street for parking. So we got a lot of extra business out of that, let's say, and it's something that I really want to continue to encourage. And I'm going to take this moment just to quickly say thank you very much to Trevor. From what I understand from the people, I spoke with the gentleman and the producer, and they explained to me that Trevor had gone extremely way out of his way to bend over backwards to help these people, so I want to acknowledge that. But it is something, this movie that was made, just for those that are interested, it's called Christmas in Montana. It will be on TV on December 12th. And unfortunately, due to a prior commitment, I was unable to star in it, but that's okay. They did offer me the opportunity, but I just had to decline. But no, seriously, I think that's a thing that we should really be looking at. I mean, Grimsby still has a lot of heritage and a lot of, stuff, and that's extra business. That's not necessarily just business per se, but it gets our restaurants and our hotels, and just something to keep in mind. And I will pass that information on to the CAO, and he can deal with it. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp?
I just had a question through the mayor. So this won't change the structure of the GDAC committee at all? It won't add any staff to the committee, or it's essentially the same, the same GDAC just reports directly to council, or does it come to admin and finance?
Through you, what we've recommended in the report directly through me to this, directly to the CAO, through my office. So I will be attending every meeting, and I'll pull in staff as needed. Might not always be planning staff, it may be planning plus many others to try and make something happen. So.
Councillor Batwa?
So
Right.
so then you'll bring stuff to council on behalf of the committee?
Through you, Chair, yes.
Councillor Batwa?
Thank you, Your Honor. My question's about the current municipalities who have an economic development department. So I'm assuming that's an in-house staff within the municipalities that lead economic development. Are those planning staff, or are they part-time staff? So I'm just a little curious as to the organization within the municipalities where the support staff is provided, and then they also show where there is an economic development department, that there's in some cases also an economic development committee. So, and it's showing that the relationship is the economic development department, which to me is an in-house municipal person, reports to the CAO, and the committee is another part of that. So I'm just a little curious about the structure and how much municipal staff time is committed to it, and a bit more on that structure. I find that would be more helpful in making this decision, and also whether this sets a precedent for some of our other advisory committees that may then be coming to appeal to council to be standalone as well and report directly, which I believe that there is some momentum that could possibly also be put forward, and how would we handle that?
Through you, Mayor. So the organizations that have ECDEV, they're full-time ECDEV employees, they're not part-time. And in some cases, the Fort Erie was previously a separate corporation. They're now bringing that back in-house, but it's all full-time employees. So where they have ECDEV people, it's truly ECDEV people, they're not planning people. And they report usually directly to the CAO in all those cases. As we can see, Niagara Lake and Thorold have some advisory committees, much like ours. And the only reason that I think that ECDEV was so prominent was it was brought up in a notice of motion, and a couple councillors said how important it is to be reporting directly to council through the CAO's office. So that was a request by some council members. And I do think that once you set up your priorities, I mean, if ECDEV doesn't rise to the top, then maybe we revisit this, but I'm sure, I think from the preliminary results, it seems like economic development is very important with our ratio of residential versus employment assessment. It comes up in most meetings when I meet with council members, so it's just highlighting how important it is, that's all.
Councillor Bothwell?
Thank you. So then, would we be dedicating any staff here in the municipality and naming a department, an ECDEV department, to align with this type of structure that's being recommended?
At this time, no, because it's not approved. We don't have any ECDEV staff in the organization. All we're doing is giving it some prominence right to the office of the CAO so that I could pull off resources to help make things happen, but we will not have an economic development department yet. I mean, perhaps if it comes up in your priorities, we could maybe look at it in the 2020 budget.
Thank you. Councillor Barty, then Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO. When you say it's going to be reporting through you to council, is that, because my understanding we were going to make this akin to a standing committee. Is that how the other standing committees are structured? Do they report through you to council or directly to council?
Through you to the councillor. In this situation, we're not saying a separate standing committee. We're just saying our recommendation is it just have a different reporting structure. It doesn't go through planning committee, just through the CAO's office, and then I would bring those minutes to council.
Councillor Cadwell?
There, now we're working. Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan, and I'm really glad this notice of motion and the report that the that staff has brought forward. I have a little bit of history with GDAC, being a member, as chair of GDAC now. I think it's the right move for us, and from an operational side, I believe, Walter and Mr. Slang, that we'll continue to have the two planning staff at our meetings and that. I'm hoping, because that really, that's guided us very well over the years. So that's my first question. So we'll continue to have the members of, I'll just, Nancy and Walter at our meetings too, through you, Mayor, to our CAO.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, again, because economic development should be everybody's responsibility in the town staff, definitely Nancy would still be involved, but, it wouldn't maybe just be Walter, maybe I would have Public Works there, so as needed, there may be more staff there, but I can't always guarantee Walter will be there if the agenda is more about employment and, yeah.
Councillor Bain?
Just to the members of council, in regards to Councillor Vardy's comment about other committees, that's already started. The wind of this got out that we were looking at bringing GDAC. Other committees, you have to remember each committee that's got volunteers or lay members is, they are very passionate about their committee, so I know a number have approached us, and it is something we are going to have to deal with. I am 110% behind this. I really do hope to see in the 2020 budget that we do have a person for economic development. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. This is a really important issue. This town is getting overwhelmed with residential, and nobody wants to keep paying higher taxes. Unless we start getting more industry or businesses in here, we're going to keep paying higher taxes. So I will totally support this motion, as I will support the idea of a economic development officer in the future. Oh, and one other quick comment. Sarah Sweeney does like to take part in this. You guys would know better. She's quite involved from what I understand. So I just wanted to make that point as well. She would be disappointed if she was not allowed to.
Councillor Sharp, then Councillor Ritchie.
So my question is with regard to that the CAO would bring the minutes to council, and the question I'm asking is, will the committee still have a council rep on the committee, and why won't the council rep bring the minutes?
Okay. Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, again, we said we're not going to change that Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Cadwell are on the committee, and they would remain on the committee. And then again, through the minutes, through that committee, I would just make sure that I would make sure they would get done. So nothing would change that way. They just wouldn't come through planning, just directly through council.
So just to follow up, the reports, like, so typically Councillor Ritchie or Cadwell bring, come and they'd give us like this is what went on at, right? Then it would still be that.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, through the mayor. I want to thank Walter for bringing this report forward. Originally, this was a response that I'd heard several councillors say how important this committee was, and for me, the whole reason for this notice of motion is, I like to take some steps to see exactly where we want to go. We'll see when we do our strategic planning where our priorities lie. But before just going and saying, yeah, let's get an economic development officer and let's do this, I thought this was the first step to see and to analyze whether there's a need for the economic development officer and slowly progress. So it's to ensure that we're doing our due diligence for the town and doing things for the right reasons.
Great, thank you, Councillor Ritchie. I'll read the resolution now. Moved by Councillor Ritchie, second by Councillor Bain. Resolved that report PA 19-37 regarding Grimsby Economic Development Advisory Committee be received and the terms of reference be revised to direct the committee to report to council through the office of the CAO. All in favor? And that's carried. Up next, we have report DB 1914, Business Case Senior Inspector Plans Examiner, Anthony Boncory is going to speak on that.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I am here this evening to present to you a business case for our Senior Inspector Plan Examiner. As you may be aware, in 2019, the department experienced staffing challenges with increased volume and scope of work requiring new qualifications to be brought in, shortages in labor market, which pose recruitment challenges, circumstances which could also have caused risk, errors and omissions, and liability to the town and risk to the public. We went through some staffing challenges. Again, as I mentioned, and trying to deal with some of these staffing challenges, we brought in some temporary staff to deal with the residential aspect and a part-time part-time inspector, but this still was insufficient to deal with the volume of workload and inspections and plan examination that the department was experiencing. There were increased volumes of scopes requiring increased volume and scope requiring new qualifications. So with the increased volume in construction activity and complexity of the types of building construction in Grimsby we're experiencing, some of the buildings fall under 326, which are measures for high-rise buildings, and at the time we lacked the inspector with that qualification. As such, we looked out into the labor market, also reaching out to chief building officials of Niagara, and they were experiencing the same difficulties. Difficulties in recruiting experienced inspectors, especially for complex and high-rise buildings. With regards to the senior plan examiner inspector position, the senior inspector plan examiner will be responsible for plan examination and inspection duties of all non-residential building permit applications, and also act as a chief building official during the absence of the acting director or chief building official. A new full-time position would enable the department to keep up with the demands and inspections, plan examination, and have qualifications for complex and high-rise structures. This position would also allow me to focus greater amounts of time on the implementation of council's various directives and focus on the department and managing the department's day-to-day administration. A unique opportunity presented itself as a qualified candidate with the requisite skills and experience. Was already contracted with the town and was available for full-time permanent position, which we otherwise would have had extremely difficult time trying to recruit someone with such experience. The financial implications of this position, I can speak to that with regards to the fact that 2018 we had, so first of all, the department actually generates revenues through building permit activities, which covers its own annual expenses. And depending on the level of building activity, most years generally a fairly large surplus exists. In 2018, we saw a surplus of $303,600. And although this new position was not included in the 2019 budget, 2019 revenues are expected to be sufficient to cover the costs. We're looking at surpluses of $125,000 estimated this year, and over the next 3 years, the building surpluses should match or exceed those surpluses on an annual basis. In conclusion, with the anticipation and heightened level of construction activity within the municipality and resulting workload of the Building and Enforcement Department will experience in the foreseeable future, this new position enables the department to fulfill our statutory obligation and ensure that the building department has the required expertise and manpower to service the needs of the community, mitigate risk and liability to the town and its residents. I now put this out to you for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Boncory. Any questions, Council? Councilor Vardy?
So, are you looking for another person, or is this the person you already hired?
Through the chair to Councillor Vardy, this is for the person that I've already hired.
Okay. So I just have to say my piece. This should have come to council before the person was hired. Had it done so, I would have given it my full support. The only other thing that I want to say on the record is that just because you generate a surplus doesn't mean it's your surplus to spend. You know, right now we have possibly other priorities, you know, such as maybe an economic development person, and maybe we want to, you know, put some of that money towards that. So I just caution you about that, not to be thinking about your surplus as your own little piggy bank for what you think needs to be done. And I know you know my feelings about all of this, and how important I feel it is to bring these issues to council. That's the proper route. But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell?
Thanks, and again, I echo Councillor Vardy's comments, especially that I believe that when we're looking at a long-term indeterminate FTE position, we shouldn't be counting on surpluses to staff that, and it should be projected into our budget, because there's no guarantee that those surpluses will be, as she mentioned, available or earmarked for that purpose. So staffing should always have an accountability mechanism through the regular budget. The other question I have is the duties of this person, and the reason that we hired this senior inspector plans examiner was to be responsible for plans examination and inspection duties for all non-residential building permit applications. So a lot of the high-rise developments that are happening in the West End are mixed use, which is commercial on the bottom and 19 or 20 stories of residential above. So is the inspection duties that this senior inspector will be doing, is he qualified and skilled and able to handle those mixed-use buildings? And is that, because this especially refers to non-residential building permits, and then further on it talks about it will help with the high-rise structure. So I just want to clarify that the intent of what this person's role is.
Through the mayor to Councillor Bothwell. Yes, my apologies. When I referred to non-residential, I meant single-family homes and semis. He won't be necessarily, he is qualified to look at those, but he will be focusing on multifamily residential, which is the high-rise. So that's really not correct. It was in the report. I apologize. Multifamily, high-rise residential, commercial, industrial, institutional types of buildings. He will be focused on those. And if I could also address Councillor Vane's, I just want to say I apologize for the oversight on my part, and in future I will ensure that I follow all policies and work with our CAO to ensure that proper budgeting and proper reporting is done.
Councillor Sharp?
I have a similar comment with regard to the hiring a full-time staff member. Really, like with promise of having a surplus, but so a full-time staff member is forever and ever, right? And so if, like, say in 5 to 10 years, Grimsby's situation changes, will that member be qualified to transfer to another department, or is it, how does that work?
Through the mayor to Councillor Sharp. As I mentioned before, the revenues generated by the building department stay within the building department, and those revenues are meant for future technologies, expenditures. They're meant for when the department slows down and construction slows down, to cover those costs. So the individual 5 or 6 years, we anticipate that in 5 or 6 years we still have sufficient amount of work to be looking after construction, and he will definitely still be within the department. But he does have transferable qualifications, definitely.
Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan. I don't have a problem with the position. I'm just reading through the report, Anthony, and thinking about things. But I'm just thinking about a time frame. We're less than 3 months to the end of 2019. So I'm just wondering, can this be brought into 2020 as a budgetary item through our process? Again, I just looking for clarification on that. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Cadwell. Yes, definitely, we will be incorporating this new full-time implement into our 2020 budget. Definitely.
Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, through the mayor. So I too was looking at the dollar amount here, and so the individual hired was on contract before, correct? So when I look at the amount that it cost, I would think that if we haven't hired somebody to do a contract, that actual contract value would be subtracted from this. And when we're talking about how much extra it's costing to have the full-time employee. So I just wanted to point that out. If we haven't hired somebody, then the actual dollar figure here would be less because we were spending some money on a contract position. I just want to see if that's correct.
That is correct. That individual was on contract. We were paying him on contract. Now he's a full-time implement. And therefore, we're not paying him on contract, and there is a cost savings there.
All right, seeing no further questions, I'll move the resolution. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. Councillor Dunstall?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to address the town manager. Just curious, since we've hired this individual, how does this all fit into the building department and the structuring going forward? Is this going to cause a glitch, or is this going to be a smooth transition? Because we don't have a director of building at this moment. We have an acting director, and so I'm just curious how this is all going to fit in. Maybe you could answer that?
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor. First of all, there's a major labor shortage of CBOs. Actually, a number of the cities are trying to work together to try and find CBOs, and we're poaching from each other. So this individual has some great strengths. So I actually foresee no issues at all in moving forward in the structure. We need this type of talent, and glad that they're in Grimsby. So we'll see no problems with that.
Councillor Bain?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, back to the CAO again. I'd heard something before, and I'm not sure who said it to me, and maybe it was Anthony, maybe it was yourself, or maybe somebody else, I don't recall. But somebody suggested the idea of amalgamating departments under one director. Is that something we look at, or can we amalgamate? Like, for example, the fire department amalgamated the chief fire inspector, was that it? And maybe that's something that maybe we could look at with Lincoln or something?
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, the fire chief from Lincoln and Grimsby worked together on emergency office. And in fact, we're seeing some of that because of the shortage in the labor market for CBOs. We're seeing some of the cities in Niagara maybe looking at, one CBO for 2-3 cities. But that's just in discussion right now. So we'll be looking at all options as we go forward. Yeah.
Seeing no further questions, moved by Councillor Bain, seconded by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that report DBE 19-14 business case senior inspector plans examiner be received by council, and that council resolution number C 19-177 requesting a business case be submitted to council for new full-time positions be satisfied. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we have Regional Councillor Furtick, who's going to give a regional update. Welcome, Councillor Furtick.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. Council, just so you know, I heard the question being asked. I don't want to upset any apple carts here, but tourism is at the region does come under economical development. I'll say no more. So just so you know. It's been extremely busy right now because we're in the process of doing the 2020 budgets. I'm just going to give you a recap briefly of the capital request for 2020 is about $375 million, but we have a deferral of approximately $151 million. It's up for debate to have council decide how the funds, how we can defer this, because it just adds on to next year's budget, and it just goes on and on and on and gets higher. There's a suggestion to borrowing the $151 million by way of debt, of course, to eliminate the deferral because of the interest rate being so low today. You know, who knows what the rate's going to be in the future. So there's a little bit of thought in that part of the process. Tenders have closed for the waste management garbage pickup contractors. So far, I don't think that Grimsby has been hit too bad, only once in the last few months. I know that I've only had mine not picked up once, and it was picked up the next day, so I think we're pretty lucky that we haven't been hit like some of the other places, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines. The Casablanca New Road is on schedule, which is about 16 million, and it should start in early 2020, but there's still a public meeting on the environmental assessment that will be announced fairly soon. The Niagara Specialized Transit, of course, we all know what that is it was brought in back in my days about 25 years ago, where you called into the region, or you qualified to call into the region for specialized transit to be used for people who had medical appointments and whatnot in another area, another municipality. Right now, Niagara Specialized Transit is using the Stony Creek hub off of Highway 8 to connect the Niagara Specialized Transit riders from Niagara to Darts in Hamilton. Niagara Specialized Transit is discontinuing its current practice of only providing medical-related trips to Hamilton via a direct trip. Instead, riders will be able to book all types of trips to the hub, including work, social, and medical. But they are now required to make use of the transfer hub. This enhances the convenience of the service, especially for the Niagara Specialized Transit clients that are residing in West Niagara. You can book your trip 24 hours ahead of time instead of the previous 48 hours. And the cost is only $16 instead of $15. And of course, there's $3 for darts. So it costs $9 for a one-way trip. Well, this is effective as soon as this has gone through, it's gone through council. But this is a real advantage for everybody in West Niagara now. On another issue, Regional Councillor Diane Hewson has got Regional Council to endorse the establishment of a Women's Advisory Committee to advocate for gender-based issue resolutions and opportunities related to regional policies, priorities, and decisions, to promote leadership development that empowers women in Niagara to fully participate in civic life. Also, the research is to provide information and resources about the women's gender-based issues to Niagara. Diana Hewson is extremely well-educated individual, and we have approximately 8 women on regional council, but she's extremely adverse in doing such a project. She's a wonderful person. There's been a desire by the 4 municipalities to own that own the airports. That's another issue. With the Niagara region to purchase the Niagara District Airport and the Niagara Central Dorothy Rundgling Airport. Mayor Jordan and I have voted against the purchase because if the region purchases it, Grimsby will have to pay for its operations. And I can assure you millions of dollars of capital upgrades. Luckily, committee has agreed to have the transfer postponed until the 2021 acceptance of the budget. I can appreciate the municipalities that don't want to continue to pay for the airport, but I don't believe that the region should be in the airport business. I'm very sorry, but I am gun shy, particularly when I was against the bio and look what the municipality has gone through. Remember the experts on the Hydro Board? Thanks to those involved with the sale. Great job. My final report is about the Niagara Regional Police are asking for an additional increase of about $1.5 million for the hiring, and I know we've had lots of conversation about having the police have more presence in our community. They're going to have proposed in their budget, once it's approved, to hire 40 police to walk the beat and be positioned in all of the municipalities. It's my understanding that they should all be hired by July of 2020. Anyway, that's what I have for now, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Furtick. Councillor Bain has a question.
Thank you, Councillor Furtick, for bringing that forward. There's a couple of things I wanted to respond to. First of all, as far as the airports, I appreciate hearing that yourself and Mayor Jordan are against that. Having worked as part of my career at many smaller airports, they can be very, very expensive. And I don't think it's fair to have us as a town supporting something like that. We have our own airport in town. It's privately owned, is my understanding. So I don't see why we should be supporting another one. The Niagara Regional Police, it's funny, I've had this conversation with a number of people. Actually, when we were running the campaign, people made some accusations that some of the stuff I was highlighting was not true. It actually is very true. I have, just to give an idea of some of the things that happen in Grimsby, we have a particular area where we have a little bit of an issue with narcotics. I've spoken to the staff sergeant for this area, and he has told me that he has officers actually sitting down there on that street and taking pictures of people going in and out of this one house. And it's gotten to the point that one individual walked out with narcotics in his hand while the officer was sitting there. Naturally, he got arrested. So I understand. I have been reading some of the Facebook feedback. Some of it's been negative. Some, saying, "Oh, we got to put more money here, put more money there." At the end of the day, realistically, we need more police officers, period. We have a lot of people moving from other areas. We have a huge increase in our population. Traditionally, we have been a rural or a small town with very little policing. That applies to a lot of the towns. So I do fully support that one. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thanks again, Regional Councillor Furtick. It's great to hear there's some improvements coming to the specialized transit. Can you just clarify for me again? Did you say it was only going to cost $9? So it's $6 instead of $15 plus $3 for darts for people to get to the Hamilton hospitals, I'm assuming, using through the Stony Creek hub. And then but what happens for our people who might need to get to St. Catharines? How does the specialized transit work for that? Thanks.
Through the mayor to Councillor Bothwell, I don't have the schedule because it's all different costs and related to the specialized transit going east. I wanted to bring this to the attention of council so that it applies to West Niagara. So it gives us an option now. It's not quite intermunicipal transit, but it is a step forward, giving everybody the opportunity to use that specialized transit. And I'm sure that maybe there's not enough people using it. And so they're sort of they're trying to open it up and provide the service a little bit further. Yes. Yes. And if I can, Mayor Jordan, respond to Councillor Vane. Mayor Jordan and I talked about the airports, and I think we both have the same kind of philosophy. And that philosophy is we are there for the people. We're not there to be in business. And when it comes to Niagara Regional Police, I can assure you that Niagara Regional Police, I believe right now, tentatively, I think it's about a 5.6% increase. You know, these are the services that we have to provide to protect our taxpayers. These are the things that we should be doing. We shouldn't be, and I shouldn't divulge on this too much about being in an airport business. We councillors are not airport people that know how to run an airport. We can look at a financial statement. I can look at them just like anybody else can. And I have. I've looked at the last 4 years of the financial statements for both organizations, and I can assure you there's not a whole lot of bread there. So when I see something like that, and again, like I say, I've talked to Mayor Jordan, that I'm pretty sure we're all on the same page, and if we were to ask each and every one of you individually, I don't think I could get a yes. So we did go ahead and say no.
Thank you, Councillor Furtick. Councillor Sharp?
Through the mayor to Regional Councillor Furtick, you mentioned the establishment of a women's advisory committee at the region. What is that committee?
Through Mayor Jordan, there is reports coming forward that will lay out the mandate of that particular committee. It's basically a committee to acknowledge women in the workplace and advocating a gender-based issue in relation to any opportunity within the Niagara region. So it's a help to help the woman.
Is there any committee establishment for like this for men?
Through the chair, I don't appreciate that kind of remark. This is not the purpose of this committee. And as far as whether there is for men, well, tell you what, there's a lot of women in this world that don't get paid as much as a man and do the same job. So I don't want to get into the discussion.
I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds here, and on the gender equality in payment, Canada ranks 19th in the world, and so we have a little bit of ways to go upward. When a country like Iceland is number one and way above us, I think we need to strive to equality with equal job for equal pay, and I think we can just leave it at that. Councillor Bain?
I just want to add one thing, Councillor Furtick, through you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to be bringing up a discussion point in open business later about this. I agree the idea of the type of committee. What I'm concerned about, and this is something I'll be discussing later, we have a lot of other groups right now that we should also be considering. I'm wondering if maybe the scope of the group, for example, we've identified it, and I know this, as you know, I work for the federal government, and one of our big pushes over the years has been to hire more people of Indigenous nature. I'm just wondering if maybe the scope of the group could be a little wider, and not that I'm opposed to it being just a gendered group, bless you. I'm just suggesting that maybe we could look at other groups as well.
I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, it's, I guess you'd have to look at what sort of group you're looking at to possibly put forward and, you know, send it into the region and have a good look at it. Because there's a lot of groups that I guess we do recognize in society today. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we're concerned about and what she is concerned about is more equality. And I think that's fair. So anyway, if you want to really get into a discussion with it, I would suggest you phone Councillor Hewson, because I'm sure she could help you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Jordan, through you to Regional Councillor Furtick. Just questions, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but how did they get to the hiring of 40? Is there retirees involved in that? Do they have I know with firefighting, they have a ratio of one firefighter or one officer per so many citizens. And I guess this is probably one of the largest hirings that the Niagara Regional Police have done. I'm just thinking back when Winnie Southall was the chief, and I'm sure our town manager remembers a lot of the things that the region went through. But yeah, is there retirees involved, or just to upstaff the numbers there? Thank you.
Through Mayor Jordan, they did report that I believe it was 95 officers they're short, and the 40 is part of the budget increase. That this is what they're asking for. But again, I say, and I'm not the expert in some of these things because this comes through the Police Services Board, and we got notification of it in our budget deliberations, and part of that budget deliberations was an increase of 1.5 million. So.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Councillor Furtick. And next, Councillor Bothwell is going to speak on a notice of motion. Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I'm just bringing forward a notice of motion, and I'll read it, that staff provide a summary of current and outstanding legal actions to which the town of Grimsby is a party, including commencement date of action, name of legal firm, contact engaged, and current status. This isn't meant to address the biodigester by the side. This is to address the other outstanding legal cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. I acknowledge the notice of motion, or I acknowledge the notice of motion, and it will be given consideration at the next council meeting. Thank you. Next up, we have correspondence. Moved by Councillor Bain, seconded by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that the correspondence from the Region of Niagara with reference to health and addictions collaborative work, Niagara Region's involvement, be received. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Bain, seconded by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that the correspondence from Doug Robbins of Robin X Consulting Intermediaries Brokers with reference to his recent move to Grimsby be received. All in favor? Or Councillor? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Yeah, it's a good letter. Moved by Councillor Vane, seconded by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that October 24th is hereby proclaimed as World Polio Day in the town of Grimsby, and the flag be raised on that date to encourage and join Rotary International in the fight for a polio-free world. All in favor? And that's carried. Up next, we have a little bookkeeping. Council meeting date change on October 21st is going to be changed to October 22nd, and that's due to the federal election. We're being pushed back a day. And all in favor on that? That's carried. Up next, do you want to do the new business now?
Yeah.
Up next is any new business from any councilors? Councilor Bain?
I just want to, I bring forth a couple of things. I just want to make council aware. I didn't have time to get it in time for this council meeting, but I just want to bring it up now so that at least some members of council can think about it. If you have any comments or questions, you can email me prior to that or discuss it with me. Next council meeting, I will be bringing forward notice of motions for, to get the transit thing moving again. We have talked about transit quite a bit, and we put it off in the last budget because of that. So
I don't think that, Councilor Bain, with all due respect, I just don't think that this is something for new business. New business
Okay.
is much more of announcements.
Okay.
But you're welcome to bring that forward with the clerk, and
Okay.
and I'm sure we'll hear from it.
Thank you.
Councilor Ritchie?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind people of the essentials for municipal fire protection. There's a seminar that's coming up on October 30th, held here in our town from 8:30 to 4:30. They've asked us to respond by tomorrow if you would like to attend. I think it's a worthwhile cause. I signed up myself today. I know another councilors, or one or two other councilors have signed up. Just wanted to send that reminder out because that's not just for council, it's also for all senior staff.
Councilor Sharp?
Could you just repeat when that is?
It's October 30th from 8:30 to 4:30. Councilor Cadwell?
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. If I may, I'd just like to give a brief synopsis of our GDAC meeting that we had on Wednesday, September 25th at 8:30 in the morning. We had guests there. Our CAO was at the meeting, which was great, and also Councillor Dunstall attended the meeting. Just to give you just a quick, I'll just go through it quite quickly here. We introduced the new members, the two new members of GDAC, and I also went through the bit of a review to the code of conduct for members of the committee and asked them to review their code of conduct just to go over it again. Reports, we had a brief report to do with the Welcome Center funding at the Gateway, and that was proposed by Sarah Sweeney. And what we did is we've asked the Mr. Purdy, the manager at the Gateway, if we could just go for a short extension to being at the Gateway until, and explaining that this will all have to go through our 2020 budget process. So the committee was in favor of that, and I believe Ms. Sweeney has spoken with Mr. Purdy. We also had a report with the social media campaign that was done by Alejandra, and that's just to get, just a report is helping to get counselors, and especially myself, and staff more so, but I think staff, probably everybody else is a lot better than I am at all of this, but just getting us up to speed with regards to social media and things like that. Yeah, just Ally's going to bring a report, just how we can work with staff, and if there's some funding and the availability of just to get people more involved into the social media campaign. You see it everywhere. I mean, I know there's a lot of politicians are involved on LinkedIn, but different, and it's good. It's getting the information out to the public. We also discussion items. We had some discussion on the remaining CIP grant money, which is Stephen brought that to our attention, our treasurer, a few months back, and we've had a lot of good ideas at the committee level, talking about different things, but nothing really is in concrete yet. But this 19,000 we have to spend by March of 2020. March 31st. Okay, thank you very much. But Mr. Williscraft from the DIA brought up an idea, and what he's looking into doing, and maybe we can, as GDAC and as council, maybe support this initiative, is getting a red phone booth from the UK. Actually, I think it's from Grimsby in the UK, shipped to Grimsby, and having it put in a very strategic, good location. And I guess apparently this is a very common thing that people are taking selfies and at these phone booths and that. So that was a good, some good discussion there, and we'll just be waiting for some more information on that. The task force update, we weren't able to get that at the meeting because the one committee member, Mr. Dunda, he was unable to attend the meeting. The mayor's breakfast update, again, just to remind everybody of the mayor's breakfast coming on Wednesday, October 16th at the Casablanca Hotel from 7 till 9 in the morning. Mayor Jordan will be talking about the vision of Grimsby and that. Also, this mayor's breakfast is being also in conjunction through the Grimsby Chamber. And I was told today that ticket sales are going very well. So please, if you're planning to attend, get your ticket from the chamber. And we also, Walter, Mr. Basic gave us a brief update about the red grant, which we got it in. So it's just a matter of hopefully we hear the good news next year with that we get accepted from OMAFRA. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Sharp?
Through the mayor, I just had one item to add to new business. The museum fundraiser dinner is coming up on November 2nd. That's, is that 5 weeks from now or something? No, that's even less. Buy your tickets for the museum fundraiser dinner. It is, so we're very lucky to have a museum in Grimsby, and we are largely funded through fundraising and through grants that the museum's applicable for. So without your support, without your help, we have trouble funding the programs that the museum puts on for kids and for the community, and it's a great cause. Plus, it's a great meal. We go to Casablanca Hotel. It's a 4-course meal. It costs $65. There will be a illusionist there. His name is Nick Wallace. Nick Wallace is actually a Grimsby resident, and he was on America's Got Talent and CHCH and some other show. He fooled those guys, the professional illusionists, and I guess he's a very popular thing. So we've sold probably 2/3 of the tickets already. There's about 3 weeks until the fundraiser dinner comes on November 2nd. If you're interested in coming, you can get tickets on Eventbrite. There's a link on the town website, and you can buy your tickets online. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I have my tickets. Any other new business? Councillor Bothwell?
I'm just going to note that I attended a workshop at the library last week on Niagara's on homelessness. It's called A Home for All, it was called. It was presented by the Niagara Region staff. Jeffrey Sinclair, who is the Homelessness Action Plan Advisor. There was a number of people who attended, and Stacey Ella from the Grimsby Benevolent Fund also attended. And it's an awesome initiative. I hope to hear more from Regional Councillor Furtick at some point as to how this initiative is progressing, because we have an issue in Grimsby of homelessness. It's whether it's couch surfing or whatever, it might be invisible, but it's there. And the GBF made a point of saying that they're helping to support people keep a roof over their head by rent supplements of over $230,000 a year now, and expecting that to increase to over $300,000 next year. So there's some really great community supports we have, and we need to do whatever we can to help GBF and work towards eliminating homelessness for everyone in Grimsby and giving people the dignity and security of knowing they have a roof over their head. It was a great workshop. I'm going to also mention that this week is Mental Illness Awareness Week, and October 10th is World Mental Health Day. The GBF is holding some excellent mental health speaker series starting October. There's 6 of them, October 8th, 22nd, November 12th, November 19th and November 26th. And we have a couple posters and a few notices about that. This mental health speaker series has some excellent speakers. It's going to be held at the Peach King Center. You can find more information. They all take place from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Peach King Center. More details, please check out the gbfgrimsby.com website on that. Excellent way of supporting and raising awareness of mental health in our community. Again, for the World Mental Health Day, the saying is a day for 40 seconds of action, because every 40 seconds someone loses their life to suicide. So taking 40 seconds of your day to think about ways to improve awareness of the significance of suicide as a global health problem, improve your knowledge of what can be done to prevent suicide, reduce the stigma, and let people who are struggling know that they're not alone. Take 40 seconds to do something positive, help somebody, learn some more, do what you can to help promote mental wellness. So I just want to raise that, and if anyone wants more information, I'll have it here available after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Councillor Bain, you have one more short one.
Well, actually, I just want to add on to Councillor Bothwell very quickly, too. I'm actually doing an essay on suicide right now, and just so everybody's aware, the greatest number of people that commit suicide are young men, and I'm talking in your 20s, so be very aware of your children. But having said that, what I actually wanted to mention is myself and Councillor Bothwell and Councillor Frake and Councillor Vardy. We were all at the hospital fundraiser the other night run by the auxiliary. Had 90 people there. It was an excellent affair. And one of the things I want to do a spin-off is I was driving here tonight and I saw someone had taken one of their Save the Hospital signs and put it in the recycling bin. I cannot overemphasize. There's a lot of positive feelings about the shovels hitting the ground soon. Some people said 2020, some people say 2021, some people say 2022. Whatever the point is, we cannot give up this fight. So please don't take your signs. If you don't want to put them out, give them to somebody else who will put them out. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell.
Isn't it Fire Prevention Week this week, firefighters? We just want to say, got to keep thinking about those guys that are out there every day trying to keep us safe. And we have a new education officer, and awareness is everybody's responsibility. I don't know if you want to add to that, but I just think we have to give your firefighter a hug this week.
Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Jordan. If I may just take a few brief minutes of council's time. As Councillor Vane made mention about our hospital. So I just want to give you an overview. I took it's the Coles Notes versions of our Westlink Memorial Hospital advisory meeting that we had last September 25th, which was a Wednesday night at 6 p.m. I just wrote stuff down quickly, so I'm going to read through my notes. I apologize. So, upgrades and renovations are ongoing. West Lincoln Memorial Hospital has only one operating room available until the fall of 2020. Emergency room department services, day clinics, inpatient care, and diagnostics are not affected by the renovations that are happening right now at West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. West Lincoln, the hospital can keep scheduling elective surgery, Hhs Goals, short-term, meet high priority standards for infection control, specifically the storage of sterile supplies for surgery and obstetrics, complete. They've done that. Medium term, seek government approval and funding to undertake renovations that maintain 2 functioning ORs and operative OBs programs until the rebuild requests submitted awaiting approval. Long-term from HHS, continue to work towards hospital rebuild, maintain the service model we have at West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, awaiting approval to proceed to stage 2. And there's 5 stages through this process. OR surgical nursing staff recruitment, it started in January of 2019, and of August of 2019, there was 144 applicants. 123 did not meet the qualifications. There were 4 offers to emergency room nurses, OR nurses, 3 accepted, 2 full-time, and 1 part-time. Site update, continue infrastructure projects, CT scanner, finalizing the financing approach Next steps, including for the scanner, will be the vendor selection, construction, and commissioning of a CT scanner at West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. Facility plans, proposal for return of second OR endoscopy, anticipated completion for fall of 2020. Infrastructure Ontario gave a bit of a schedule on how West Lincoln Memorial Hospital will be going. So, and again, this is from HHS. It says model to be determined. In winter of 2021, the issue of an RFQ, which is stage 3. And then in the spring of 2021, issue of an RFP, which is stage 4. And then, sorry, my notes are a little, and then in 2020, the final financial close of 2020 for Grimsby West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, that is stage 5, estimated at approximately $200 million. Accreditation Canada has gone well. This was done in June of 2019. They are very satisfied with the services that are going to West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. HHS will be coming to Grimsby Council and also the other two, West Lincoln and Lincoln Council. They'll be looking for its financial commitment in the spring of 2020 and being part of the 30% cost that the local municipalities have to raise to the sharing of the hospital cost. And that's about it. And again, the bomb was dropped to us that Wednesday night. It's out now that the OB ward is now being closed until the fall of 2020, and that is bad news. That is not good news. So, anyways, sorry, I'm a little bit emotional to this, but we have to get moving forward on this. We are working with HHS. We're in their umbrella, but whether we puts pressure on the government, but this service that has been taken away back in it was after the Premier and the Minister of Health, I believe it was February 2018, a statement was made that there'll be no more services leaving West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. Well, here we are, folks. We're losing the obstetrics for time. So, anyways, I just want to put that out to everybody, and I hope we can get, as Councillor Vane mentioned, the Save the Hospital signs. We have to do something, and I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. I agree with you completely that the West Niagara mayors, we all have we're all pushing for this hospital and pushing for closures not to be lasting as long as they are, and at every push we get a different story from Hamilton Health Sciences. And the West Niagara mayors are having an emergency meeting tomorrow to try to just get more dialogue to try to actually expedite everything involved and reduce the actual closure time. So we are not giving up, and we are continuing to work passionately to A, get the hospital rebuilt, and B, to reduce closure time. Thank you. Councillor Vane?
Excuse me, at the auxiliary fundraiser the other night, I had the opportunity and pleasure to speak with Sandra Easton and Dave Bilsma, and respectively mayors of Lincoln and West Lincoln, if I'm correct. And I just, on a personal note, I want to say thank you very much to Mayor Jordan, Mayor Easton, and Mayor Bilsma, because from what I've heard from talking to the three of them is the tremendous amount of effort and work they put forward on this. And I know it's only being carried forward because of the excellent work of our mayors and members of our council, such as Councillor Cadwell. So I think I just want everybody to realize that we're really pushing hard for this, and we need your help. But I do have a question for Councillor Cadwell. You said that 20% of 200 million would be 40 million. What percentage of that would be ours to come up with?
Our CAO will help.
Through you, Mayor, to the councillor, I've been in discussions with the two CAOs from Lincoln and West Lincoln. So in a $200 million project, if they're looking for 30% from the local municipalities, that's about 50 to 60 million. So if you think of how that gets proportioned through philanthropy, and I would say that the town of Grimsby may be looking at $5 to $8 million commitment going forward. Well, from a town perspective, corporation perspective, the philanthropy component would be more, but that'll start to evolve over the next year or so. But I mean, I think we've committed to 2.5 million, so it'd even be double to what this corporation's already committed to in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Schein. Seeing no further business, just want to say that before we move into closed session, the next council meeting is set for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019 at 7 p.m. here at the chamber. So thank you and good night, and we're moving into closed session now. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that council meet in closed session under Section 2392F of the Municipal Act 2001. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. 153 Mud Street East. Section 2392D of the Municipal Act 2001, Labor Relations or Employee Negotiations, HR 1910, Staff Negotiation Plan. Section 2392B of the Municipal Act 2001, Personnel Matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and Section 2392F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and that's NPI board disbursements. All in favor? That's carried. We're now closed. Yeah. All right.
Through to you, Mayor and Council. Steve and I have put together Report 19-17. We just want, there's basically the recommendations as you see them. What prompted the recommendations that we're considering is on the one component, there's a lot of work to be done between now and the final closing of GEI. I get confused with the acronyms, but there's a tremendous amount of work. We've, at the last special council meeting, we appointed the board members to the NPI board, but after looking at the work that needs to be done, there's an extraordinary amount of work that goes well beyond a board member. So Steve and I are strongly recommending to council that we support recommendation 2, that the council approve remuneration for NPI Board of Directors Transition Committee on a fee by hour basis. It was $150 an hour. They presented estimated an upset limit of $52,000. What that means is they're looking at all the work they need to do. They said it could be as low as $29,000 and as high as $52,000. So we're looking for moving forward that council support that remuneration. Why it's a real positive thing is if we were to go to a third party to do all that work, it would at least be double because of a steep learning curve that would be required. Then, but that not be paid out until the net proceeds of the sale once the funds are released by NPI. Now at 2 p.m. today, the deal has closed, so we did hear that. So, so that's positive. And then on the other recommendation is looking back. Again, we're recommending that council direct both Steve and I, the treasurer, and myself to investigate options in order to appropriate level of remuneration for the former GEI board members for their work prior to the sale of the biodigester, looking back to December of 2018 to now, all the extraordinary work they've done. We would do some benchmarking. We'd try and find some between Steve and I, some access to some similar type arrangements if we could find any, and work on that. And what we're saying is that in case we need a third party to maybe do a peer review of the work we've done or come up with some ideas that maybe they've seen similar situations like this, what would be fair compensation, that we're just asking for an upset limit of $20K. We might not need it, but we've done some exploration, and some of these experts that do this board member remuneration or compensation, you know, they're looking at, you know, 12 to 18K that what we've seen. So, but that's just in case, you know, we would provide some options to you. And if we felt it necessary to get an expert to help us, at least we could do that. So we could come with some objective mind coming back to you with those options. And that's basically the report. Steve, if you have anything else to...
No, I don't think so. I think I think especially going with the pre-work that was done, I think we'd want to be as transparent as possible to make sure that there's no bias and that, you know, we're as independent as possible in trying to determine this remuneration. So that's one thing I think I'd want to mention.
Great. Thank you very much for your report. Councillor Bothwell, you have a question? Thanks.
Again, a sincere appreciation to all the board for all their hard work. In no way am I diminishing that. I just, when we're looking at this, historically, is if there's an option to look at remuneration in the form of a stipend, an honorary stipend, and then what kind of implications taxing and things like that there are for people. But a stipend may recognize the hard work they've done in a lump sum rather than trying to determine it as a, you did this work hour by hour basis for us. And that way we might also be able to incorporate Councillor Vardy in it. If we don't view it as remuneration, we view it as a stipend, honorary stipend. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp?
What was the stipend supposed to be for 2018 board members on GEI?
I don't know what those rates are that the board members are paid. I'd have to talk to,
Can you ballpark it?
honestly, I don't know how much they were paid per meeting. I'll have to speak to Grimsby Power. The Director of Finance will let me know. And again, that is director work, you know, for say attending meetings, a stipend, but if we're actually looking at, you know, the running of the company, management work, that's going to be different.
So
And we want to separate those two.
what I'm getting at here is say that we approve the upset limit of 52,000 for the work coming up to close the deal, and then we paid the stipend for the year of 2018. Like, would that be, pardon me? So it's just a gesture of appreciation for the work done in 2018, and then the work done, or no, the work done in the past, and then like the work to close would be paid on that $150 hourly rate to an upset limit of 52,000. And or is someone thinking like, what other figures are we thinking?
Through you, Mayor, why we really in the recommendation separated it, I really would like to try and focus the conversation on the component going forward. So there's lots of work going forward, tremendous amount of hours. I'd like to at least, you know, that option two, that recommendation two that says there's all this work to be done. Let's approve an upset limit of 52K based on $150 an hour. And then what we're saying is allow Steve and I to do some research, to provide you some options to look at going on the historic basis, whether it's a stipend, whether it's a, there's some other terms being used, like a success fee that you see sometimes. So we'll do that research for you going back to allow you to make a decision, not today on the historic component, but just allowing us to go and do that research and come back to you with some options.
Thank you. I just want to echo the CAO's idea of actually doing a proper report from staff, going back and taking a look and doing that transparently, and that will give everyone on council a much better picture, because I think some of us on council have a much better picture because we've been much more involved in it than others. And I think that the way is to do it properly, having an open, transparent report from senior staff and dealing with it that way. But first off, certainly approving the first part of moving forward to get this deal completely done. Councillor Sharp first, then Councillor Bain, then Councillor
So
Cadwell.
that 52,000, thank you, Mayor Jordan. Is that per board member, or is that for the board?
That's in total for all members of the board.
Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO and the treasurer, how long do you think it's going to take you to do your report for the past part? And then I have another question once you've answered that.
For about 4 weeks.
All right. The reason I say that is I want to make sure that I have no problem with the going forward part. I'm just saying as far as the going back part. I've spoken to these people, you know, to see if maybe they might help us again in the future with other projects. They have made it very clear that they expect an appropriate compensation. So I'm just concerned, and maybe you can answer this question for me. Are we creating a precedent here by, I mean, I realize this was a one-off project, but is this going to cause us any precedent in the future if we have other projects, or are we still going to be able to negotiate on a one-on-one basis?
I think what we'd want to do going forward is, if something like this would ever come up again, is negotiate something right up front. Instead of, you know, say a voluntary board, and then you realize that there's so much more work that needs to be done. So I think the proper thing to do going forward would be to say, let's negotiate up front how much we're going to pay, just like we're doing now for the post-closure expenses. There's a negotiation, there's an agreement up front. And that's what should have been done. Again, hindsight is 2020. We didn't know how much work this was going to be. I don't know if you remember, we all thought that this thing was going to go bankrupt within 2 months and we'd be done, not last 10 months. Yeah.
And to further that, just the fact that we were ever put in this place as a new council, I certainly hope that and feel confident that this council would never ever hide things and be hidden to get anyone subsequently in this type of bog. So I just really want to utter that this is something that won't be repeated, in my opinion, if I have anything to do with it. Thank you. Councillor Cadwell?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan. And I do support the recommendation. Question I just have, whenever I see any dollars, I always think, okay, where's that coming from? So 20,000, if it's needed to do a third-party consultant, where would those funds? I've got my Bible that you give me, Stephen. I'm looking, is it budget contingency or just where does the 20,000 come from? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I would take it from the net proceeds. So from the sale. So anything to, a study, a consultant to look at the fees and the actual remuneration itself. Everything come from the net proceeds.
Okay, good.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I support the recommendation too, and we could never expect these people to do the volume of work that they did on a volunteer basis. It was a private business. We had a successful sale. There's proceeds coming in, and I think it makes good sense that we show our appreciation by some form of remuneration. And I think our town manager has come up with a proposal which I would support too, that we look out there and get a consultant to give us some direction and go from there. But this is we're at the other end of the spectrum now. We're free and clear. It's what a wonderful experience. A very much better position, and I think we should all be very, very happy with this group. We'll call them the dream team, I guess, because they got us out of a nightmare.
All right, I think I see no further questions. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Bothwell. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Grimsby enacts as follows: that report FN 19-17 be received, and that Council approve the remuneration of Niagara Power Incorporated NPI Board of Directors Transition Committee on a fee-by-hour basis of $150 per hour, estimated to an upset limit of $52,000, and that the remuneration be paid from the net proceeds of the sale of the biodigester once the funds are released to NPI, and the council direct the town manager and treasurer to investigate options in order to determine an appropriate level of remuneration for the former GEI board members for their work prior to the sale of the biodigester. In order to do this objectively, council approve the engagement of a consultant, if required, to assist in this process to an upset limit of $20,000.
I'm still not clear, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse here. When you're talking about the previous board, are you including a councillor? I'm not clear on that issue, and that is important to me.
Well, I don't think, I think that decision can be made either way. I don't think I think it's fine the way it's worded, in my opinion.
Okay,
So,
that's fair, thank you.
all in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that confidential report HR 19-10, staff contract negotiations be received, and the council approve the recommendations contained therein. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Dunstall. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 19-91, read a first time, be now read a second and third. Oh, is that the right one? Yeah, so. Moved by Counselor Barty, seconded by Counselor Dunstall. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 1991, and that be read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Counselor Vardy, second by Counselor Dunstall. Resolved that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 19-91, read a first time, be now read a second and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and town clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of council to the contrary notwithstanding. All in favor? That's carried. Meeting is adjourned.